Hello, ladies. How are we all this morning? Afternoon? Morning. Afternoon. Afternoon. Amazing. So I can still see us digesting some of our beautiful mini savory muffins and cakes. And I'm going to ask you a less digestible question. What is your romantic relationship, not with your husband or your spouse or your partner or your lover or your career or your job or your purpose or your passion, but what is your romantic relationship with vulnerability? I'm the founder of a company called DATEABILITY, and Sarah from my team is here. On Saturdays, we wear white, clearly. And it is our passion and our manifesto to equip satisfied and seeking singles with #romantic intelligence. Now, what the heck is romantic intelligence? You've heard of IQ, you've heard of EQ, the academic intelligence quotient and the emotional quotient. But romantic intelligence is a set of attitudes and behaviors that build fantastic partnerships. I'm going to cycle through and we'll get to vulnerability, but first, a little bit of context about romantic intelligence. Basically, how do I create the best me so that we can form a great we that contributes to a great us? Me, we, us. Me, we, us. It sounds like a disease or something. Me, we, us. Me, we, us. In other words, how do I be smart in love, dating, and romance? How do I make romantically intelligent decisions when I'm dating or even in my other relationships, which I'll touch on? I am a dating coach after all. But let's first look at history, and I apologize in advance, I'm a bit of a nerd burger. I love watching TED Talks, I love going down rabbit holes about history, watching nerdy documentaries. Is anyone with me that like watching a good doco? Awesome. So the reason I want to go into this is because the concept of romance and romantic love, I think we've become so hyper aware of it as a society. And the truth is, romantic love as connected to a committed relationship, and I am going to use the word marriage for the sake of this presentation and the research that I've done, but romantic love as connected to a committed relationship has only been a 100-year-old concept in the history of the world. Previous to that, actually no, I won't go into it yet, I'll show you this. So let's start with a history in time called the Antiquity Renaissance period. Whoa, I know, you've just had snacks. What are you doing to me, Jess? Seriously, what are you doing to me? But from the 6th to the 16th century, women did not marry for love. In fact, women probably didn't have many rights at the time. People married actually for political reasons, mainly for claiming the family inheritance. I read a story in my research in around the 6th century in ancient Greece. A woman whose father died without any male heirs would be forced to divorce the husband she was already married to and be forced to marry her closest male relative, i.e. her brother, in order so that the kingdom could continue, her father's kingdom could continue, and she would get a cut of the family inheritance. Pretty gross, hey. Marriages were very much arranged, especially amongst the aristocratic societies. So we go into 1600s to the Victorian era. Any Pride and Prejudice or Jane Austen fans in the room? Holla, hey yo. Okay, so I'm a huge Jane Austen fan. And women married in these days because they were expected to by the society that they lived in. It was a form of continuing the family lineage. It was a form of families growing. So those of you who are familiar with the Pride and Prejudice storyline, we've all heard of Mr. Darcy. Surely in popular culture, he's a bit of a heartthrob. Colin Firth for me, not the other guy. But it was such a shocker when Jane Austen wrote that novel to society at the time, because when he proposed to Elizabeth Bennet, yes, he did as a bit of an asshole in the first proposal he did, he insulted her and said, you don't have any family connections, you don't have any fortune, your social standing is lower than mine, you're basically a lower class, because the paradigm of marriage in the day was that you would get married for strategic reasons, not for romantic love, not because you're my soulmate and I respect your opinions and because we can ride off in the sunset together and live happily ever after. That wasn't a thing back then, although it was gaining traction in around the 1700s. Another fun fact, in the 1690s, a Protestant minister said to his congregation, please do not call wives, do not call your husband honey, baby, or sweetie, because that will undermine his husbandly authority. I know, right? Preposterous things in history. Luckily, we now live in the 21st century. But going into the 1920s, this new concept emerges. You might have heard of it. It's called dating. In the 1920s, after World War I, we start to get the concept of the Saturday night or picking up a girl in your car, or, I think Volkswagen, I don't know, I'm just making stuff up, be kind to me. But the emergence of dating comes and the choice of a partner starts to emerge as a thing. In the 1940s, after World War II, the nuclear family structure is the cornerstone of the whole community. And also, jobs for women were starting to open up as the number of workers in the agricultural industries and industrial industries were starting to open up for women, because women could do factory and labour jobs, for example. But if a woman was told, if you take this job, you are stealing an opportunity from a man to provide for his wife and kids. So she would take that job feeling pretty guilty about herself, maybe. In the 1960s, we see that marriage is definitely marrying for love is in full swing. It's based on love, but it's an essential income provider for women. Financial stability or financial independence wasn't a thing, really, in the 1960s, even though we get the suffragette movements, women fighting for the right to vote, the sexual revolution, what else was happening? And there's the feminist movement. All that's happening, and that's why we get to the 1980s and the role of the couple is changing. So while traditionally the male was the breadwinner, he works outside of the home, he brings home the bacon, and the woman's place is in the home, which we all hate as 21st century feminists. But the role of the couple is changing because dads start thinking, actually, I want to stay at home with the kids. And women start thinking, actually, I want to have a career. I feel fulfilled in my career. And all that to say, to bring it all back to today, we've got Ali and Noah from The Notebook getting it on in the rain. We've got Aladdin and Jasmine and Cinderella and Prince Charming in the remake. I love remakes, by the way. From Disney, and of course, Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth Bennet. Marrying for love is in full swing. The reason we know about romance or our associations with romance as 21st century modern empowered women is that we can choose who we can marry. I mean, other parts of the world, I'm talking about Western civilization obviously, but other parts of the world aren't so lucky. They can't choose who they want to marry, but we get to choose. We get to choose who we want to fall in love with. We get to choose to have a romantic relationship that leads towards a further commitment. Now, what's my point of all this? What is my point? That there's so much freedom today to choose. We don't just get to choose a partner and develop a finely tuned picker, not a nose picker, a picker for a man. I'm trying to insert jokes. Thanks for laughing, everyone. Trying to be funny. But we have the choice to develop skills for healthy relationships. We get to choose to develop our emotional and romantic intelligence. John and Julie Gottman, who have eclipsed the whole how to do marriage well scene, they are amazing. They've spent, I think, over 50 years studying why couples last and live their happily ever afters. And they say it's based on a deep friendship where you hit upon a dynamic of positive sentiment override. You definitely feel very positive about your partner and you are very intertwined with each other's hopes and dreams. But we get to do that in this 21st century day and age. Not only do we get to go to a personal development seminar, like Unleash Your Freedom, thank you, Kat Miller, but we also get to, I just lost my train of thought, we also get to choose a man or a woman, it doesn't matter what kind of partner we choose, but someone who is not only our erotic, passionate, romantic lover, but someone who's also our best friend. You know, someone who takes out the garbage for us and brings us fried chicken when we're feeling stressed, but also someone that we want to walk down the aisle to. And we're so blessed for that, and we have the freedom to do that. So, now, here we are today, again, 21st century women, and I am a dating coach, founder of DATEABILITY, and I've coached many women through different areas of their love lives. A lot of women come to me single. A few women come to me after they've experienced heartbreak. And I, in my work, coaching women from all around the world, including Albania, as random as it is, but from Albania as well, they have come up with a few things that I now call the Dating SuperBabes. So in your booklets on page 12, I believe it is, 12 or 13, page number, Sarah? 12? Awesome. Okay. So these 4 dating super babes, it's not my hidden agenda to box you all in. Please trust me with this. It's just a fun tool to help you understand yourself. You may or may not relate to any of the super babes, and that's fine. But as I'm going through them, the slides are a little bit wordy, so I'll kind of linger on them for a little bit. But in my work, I've found that there are trends and patterns and 4 dating styles that I find in women. So even if you're married or whatever your relationship status, I hope you have fun with this, as fun as I had making all this up. Okay, so the first one, Cinderella. Her characteristics, she's a humble woman. She's generous and she's giving, but she's a beauty in hiding. She's so beautiful, but she tends to not flaunt it or show it because she sort of doesn't really know it yet. She hasn't stepped into that revelation of how beautiful she is. She prefers not to be noticed. Things that she could work on. Nourishing her more playful side, like showing off how awesome you are and flicking your hair in front of those golfers out there. Flirting with her crush, experimenting with her look, taking more calculated risks in love, and enjoying the attention and shining. That is Cinderella, the first super babe. Then there's Catwoman. Catwoman. She's the understated beauty, the girl next door, effortlessly beautiful. She selflessly puts others, including her partner's needs, before her own. She's everybody's confidant because she's a naturally talented communicator. You'd come to her when you're having a hard time because she gives you buckets of empathy. She's like, I know. You're like, oh my gosh. She's like, I know. And Catwoman is so good at that. She's a loyal partner, but she is rarely ever single. So when I coach Catwomen, she says to me, I just never had the opportunity to be single. I never had the opportunity to try to just be alone with my thoughts. Because attracting partners is quite an unconscious process for her. They seem to just come to her. Things that she could work on. Clearly establishing what she wants, such as her boundaries, gently communicating this to a potential suitor so she's not swept up into a relationship she's only half sure about. Now, we've all seen those relationships in our circles where you think, oh, are those people together out of convenience or because they really do love each other? Has anyone ever thought that? Yeah, some nods, maybe. But Catwomen tend to be in these situations oftentimes, even though she's so awesome and she could just consciously work on how to communicate. Oh. Sorry about that. Yeah. Okay, anyone want to photograph Catwoman? No? Oh, yep, one. Yeah. All right, now we move on to the Bachelorette. Not Ali Ochen, who was a recent Bachelorette and Network 10, but the Bachelorette. I love the Bachelorette. She's fun, she's outgoing, she's easy to talk to. She's the first one on the dance floor at your birthday party, and she's the one buying you tequila shots and demanding that you have at least 3 with her. She's got many choices of people to date, because dating is a hobby for her. It's a pastime. Just like you love, I don't know, collecting stamps or knitting or crocheting, she loves dating. That's her hobby and her favorite pastime. Things that she could work on. She needs to ensure she's not playing with many hearts at once by being upfront and honest with her date when the time is right. and will benefit from some ground rules to keep a steady pace as she assesses which suitor she's most compatible with. That's the Bachelorette. Now, this fourth one, I save the best for last because Kat is a self-professed Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman, okay. Who is Wonder Woman? But a strong, independent superhero. She has no problem telling her love interest exactly what's on her mind. Potential romantic partners find her naturally challenging and sexy in the best way. She's a true partner in crime. I recently saw Justice League and Wonder Woman could handle all the baddies by herself. The men were useless. But that's Wonder Woman. She's amazing. However, she could work on giving herself a well-deserved break from saving the world from time to time. And she would benefit from letting her partner take care of her for a change. And this humility will make their relationship even stronger. So, all right, are there any slides that you want me to go back on? Is everyone okay? Move on? All right. So which dating SuperBabe do you most relate to? So, and as you've been writing notes down, as you've been asterisking things, maybe you relate to two at once. Sarah, my teammate at DATEABILITY, says that she is a Wonder Woman Catwoman. And that was because you're strong and independent, definitely, but also you would unconsciously attract people. And is that right? I was like, Sarah, I'm going to do this in front of you. Okay, so, all right. So which dating SuperBabe do you most relate to? Is it Cinderella, you're a beauty in hiding? Is it Catwoman, unconsciously attracting relationships, needing to work on your communication about your boundaries? The Bachelorette, dating as a hobby for you, you're a bit of a player. Or Wonder Woman, strong and independent and would definitely benefit from a little bit of humility for letting herself be a partner to somebody else who can help her. So, the four SuperBabes. And each dating SuperBabe, while very different in personality and dating style and relationship, with the opposite sex or with people she wants to be in a romantic relationship with, she has a different relationship with risk. So, I'm just going to come back to our personal examples, and something that a typical Wonder Woman who's already in a relationship will say to me is, oh, you're a dating coach. Well, I believe that when you're not looking for it, it'll just come. When you're not looking, it'll just come. I said, where did you meet your husband? She's like, in my lounge room. I'm like, cool. So how did he get there? She's like, oh, my flatmate had a party. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, of course, you had a social network that brought in new connections and then brought them to your lounge room, and that's how you met him. Because Wonder Women are very sociable. They're very good at creating connections with people that they're consciously creating connections with. But each dating SuperBabe has a different relationship with risk, and I'm going to spell it out. So, Cinderella. Her risk, she gets friend-zoned. Often. Only because she denies her right to standing out and shining. And this doesn't have to be a physical beauty thing. This could also be refusing to stand out in the way she expresses herself, honestly. Refusing to step out and be brave and say, I've been friends with you for so long, but I actually have feelings for you. And putting her cards out on the table. Catwoman, her risk is not speaking up for herself and letting her relationships overstep personal boundaries out of fear that she will lose them. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Catwoman. The Bachelorette. Okay, you know that Beyonce song that goes, to the left, everything you want in a box to the left. I could have a new you by tomorrow. Yeah, that's the Bachelorette song. So, her risk is that she leverages her sociable personality to replace a good relationship she's already in and refusing to work on her own self-awareness out of pride. So the reason I make fun of the Bachelorette a lot, because I was a Bachelorette when I was single. And I had to learn to look at myself and say, no, actually, I'm the problem. These other things are not the problem. And then we have the Wonder Woman. She's really good at pretending she don't care. She don't care. And is fine on her own, and that will keep her strong and independent, but shut off to romance. So, a common question in the dateability community is, what's the point, Jess? What's the point of risking myself? I'm just going to get heartbroken. What's the point of doing all this work in order to attract the love of my life? What's the point of paying all that money to get dating coaching? What's the point of anything, really? And I answer something like this. Do you want someone to reach into your soul so that you can be truly known? Is it worth it to be known? So that's in your booklets, you'll see the acronym. You can clearly tell I'm trained by Kat Miller very well because of the acronym, but she's laughing in the back. So reach into my soul so I can be truly known. Why must I allow someone to reach into my soul so I can be truly known? And I just want you to spend time writing that answer in your booklets. She's just a girl and she's on fire. Hotter than Feel free to keep writing. I'm just going to slowly bring us into the next phase because I hope to encourage you with this quote that I've had a relationship with for about 5 years now. As a relationship coach, I have relationships with things. Okay, that wasn't that funny. All right, so Timothy Keller says, to be loved but not known is comforting but superficial. To be known but not loved is our greatest fear because that means we're rejected. But to be fully known and truly loved is what we need more than anything. It liberates us from pretense, humbles us out of our self-righteousness, and fortifies us for any difficulty life can throw at us. Fully known and truly loved. And as I've been reflecting and meditating on this quote by Tim Keller, a really great writer and favorite of mine, to be liberated from pretense is to be with somebody who just lets you be you, lets you be yourself. I'm liberated from pretending to be someone I am not. I can truly be myself. And when I'm humbled out of my self-righteousness, my need to prove to my partner how hurt I am or how right I am bows on the altar of us feeling at peace with each other. My relationship with my partner is more important than me being right, because I know that ultimately he does love me. Fully known and truly loved, and it fortifies me for any difficulty life can throw at me. I have backing. I have a strong support network, and that is what these amazing relationships that we have been created for will do for us. Liberated from pretense, humbled out of our self-righteousness, and fortified for any difficulty life can throw at us. So, what's the point? Because our relationships are worth it. Laurie H. Gordon, a psychologist in the 70s, said something that has actually defined a lot of dateability, which is that the quality of our closest human relationships is often what gives life our primary meaning. The quality of our closest relationships is often what gives life its primary meaning. I look forward to my weekend because I get to spend it with the ones that I love. Work is better because my colleagues are just amazing to hang out with and work with. I love running Dateability because I get to hang out with Sarah. It's awesome. Our relationships are worth it because we are worth it. Our quality of life is worth it. So now I've brought you to the edge of risk, and now you're like, all right, Jess, let's risk, let's do it. Let's jump off that wharf or cliff or whatever we want to jump off. But let's talk about when the risk doesn't pay off. And I hope you're comforted to know that I've had the pleasure and the I've just had the pleasure of experiencing coaching someone through heartbreak, and it is not a 3-step process, even though I'm going to give you 3 things, but I'm not going to stand here obnoxiously and say, here's how to heal heartbreak in 3 steps, because that's not how it works. There's a part of our brain called the anterior cingulate cortex, and it registers a broken arm, and that's the same place that registers a broken heart. So the anterior cingulate cortex, and studies show that most people would rather have a broken arm than be heartbroken, right? So Guy Winch, psychologist, who's done a 12-minute TED Talk called How to Fix a Broken Heart, which I recommend you all checking out. It's amazing. But he shares this anecdote of a 27-year-old woman who was a cancer survivor, and she said, I would much rather go through another session of chemotherapy than have my heart broken again. So that really spoke to me. Heartbreak is a complex psychological injury, and if we're around someone who's heartbroken, give them a lot of compassion, give them a lot of hugs, a lot of empathy and validation, because they need that. And your support and other supports around them is what will lead to their healing. And as I've coached people through heartbreak, I found that there are 3 stages of healing from heartbreak. And the first is rebuilding the self. So there's a term called self-concept. I think it is in the booklet. The term self-concept refers to everything that makes you you. So your belief system, your values, your core values that you did recently, your likes and dislikes. I love fried chicken, but I like my shoes. I don't know. That was another joke that I was trying to make. No one laughed. Okay, so, but your self-concept. Oh, yeah, okay. So your self-concept. And that gets inextricably intertwined with your partner concept. So when you break up, Natsim Hikmet, poet, a Turkish war poet, says it's like the snapping of a green branch to the man inside when a man is heartbroken, similar to what, I mean, we're all human. So rebuilding the self concept is so important. And how do we do that? We throw ourselves into a purpose that's bigger than us in service. When I was dumped a few years ago by someone I thought I was going to marry, I threw myself into something so random. I threw myself into spoken word poetry. And what led to that was this amazing community of people that led to a 5-year creative career, and I started entering competitions and getting a bit obsessed with it. But the point being is that years passed where I had this new purpose and I distracted myself with this really great new distraction called spoken word poetry that gave me new meaning for my life. And later on, I was no longer the girl that got dumped, but I was just a girl. You know, I was me. And then it led to my ability to sit alone in a dark room with my own thoughts. And I was happy doing that. I found glory in solitude. I built up to a place where I was able to really relish in the thoughts that were coming into my mind. And it's almost like I had graduated from all the work that I did on myself. And I still keep doing work on myself, but I think the glory of sitting alone with our thoughts, the glory of solitude is our reward for all the work we're doing on ourselves. Apparently, people would rather have electric shock therapy than sit alone in a room with their thoughts, I heard. And those of you who are shocked, it means that you've achieved solitude, so awesome. Congratulations. Okay, so why does risk make us irresistible in love? Tiana's telling me I've got 10 minutes left, is that right? 5 minutes? Oh, crap. Okay, so why does risk make us irresistible in love? Why must we risk? What's the point? Because it's our only path to growth and reward. I want to share a quote from C.S. Lewis. To love at all is to be vulnerable. Love anything and your heart will be wrung and possibly broken. If you want to make sure of keeping it intact, you must give it to no one, not even an animal, no dogs. Wrap it carefully around with hobbies and little luxuries. Avoid all entanglements. Lock it up safe in the casket or coffin of your selfishness. But in that casket, safe, dark and motionless and airless, it will change. It will not be broken. It will become unbreakable, impenetrable, and irredeemable. Because to love is to be vulnerable. We don't have a choice. Secondly, it will get easier the more we take small, consistent actions. I'm reading a book at the moment by Daniel Kahneman called Thinking Fast and Slow. Has anyone read it? It's amazing. Oh, yay. Of course Lisa's read it. She's read everything. Okay. But he talks about loss aversion. And the quickest way I can explain loss aversion is, say, Sally, I'm going to pick on you. I'm so sorry. But say I give you one coin, 50-cent coin. If it lands on heads, I'm going to give you $200. But if it lands on tails, you give me $100. You get one chance. Would you take it? You would? Okay. The example was that she was supposed to say no. Damn it. Okay. The point being is that most people would rather run away from something potentially scary than run towards something that could have potentially really large gains. And it's ludicrous to apply that same logic to our love lives, because we don't get one chance to risk being vulnerable. We get hundreds of chances. There are so many social events you're going to go to where you see a cute guy from across the room, and you have the opportunity to go up to him and say, "Hi, is this seat taken? I'm Jess," which is how I met my partner, by the way. Anyway, but it'll get easier the more we take small, consistent actions. 3, because our heart will heal. It would definitely heal. The more we surround ourselves with healthy people and a strong support network, because we can build a community of intimate relationships. Plato and Aristotle came up with 7 types of love, but for the sake of this presentation, I'm just going to share 4. Eros is romantic and sexual love, pretty self-explanatory. Storge is the love between parents and children. Philia, friendship, or phileo, friendship and companionship. What I really recommend, I was writing a poem a few years ago called A Cure for the Clingy Girl. I was the clingy girl. And what was my remedy for this was just having an awesome group of friends. And when we have that filled out support network, we'll be less inclined to focus all our energy on one romantic relationship, expecting that one relationship to fulfill all our emotional needs. And then there's agape love, unconditional love. So I'm sorry I'm rushing through this. And 5, because we have a strong purpose and sense of self. So I'm looking at a room full of self-actualized, highly developed 21st century modern women who are probably just killing it in their respective fields. Am I right about that? Yeah. Just nod, yeah. You are all super babes, and if we don't take risks, we don't get. Risk it for the biscuit, as primary school boys say. Risk it for the biscuit. Because when you risk, you're brave, and when you're brave, it makes you irresistible. I'm Jess Santosa of DATEABILITY, and follow us on Instagram at _DATEABILITY. And for your complimentary 1-hour love readiness assessment, which I've reopened the doors of for the month of December, go to our website. You can just Google it and you'll find it. But thank you so much. Thank you, ladies, for letting me speak into your lives.
Good times I find myself